Social media has a big influence on my daily life. I am constantly switching between multiple apps and posting various things for my friends to see. On a daily basis, I browse my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat feeds nonstop, keeping in constant communication with friends. I don't often question my habits, since all of my friends do the same. It isn't until my mom asks me what I'm looking at on the Snapgram, talks about potentially making a Twitter account to keep up with me, or asks me to explain to her for the 100th time the mysteries of Snapchat, that I realize the huge divide between us. It is in times like this that I am reminded of my membership in Generation Z. Generation Z is the generation consisting of those born from 1996 through 2010, shaped mainly by technology. Members of Generation Z are clearly not the only ones who are currently using social media. However, we are part of the first generation to be raised in an era this technologically advanced. So while other people may be adapting to this new form of communication in order to enhance their daily life, we, as members of Generation Z, have never known anything different. Due to the fact that no other generation has lived in an era in which technology is so readily accessible at such a young age, Generation Z youth have become accustomed to interacting and communicating in a world that is connected at all times. With all of this in mind, it is important to understand how the use of social media can affect us as members of Generation Z. As a member of this group, the use of social media can lead to addiction, absent presence, and loss of face-to-face connections. While there are several potential negative effects, the use of social media can be positive if we use it sparingly in order to increase our connections instead of simply replacing them. A huge advantage of social media is the ability to connect with pretty much anyone you want at any time. Whenever I feel the urge to catch up with some of my friends from home who attend colleges all over the U.S., I can simply shoot them a text and plan a date to FaceTime. The use of social media has particularly helped me maintain my close bond with my grandmother, who moved from Florida to Costa Rica 5 years ago. When I found out she was moving, I was initially very upset. However, we've been able to stay surprisingly close, considering the distance separating us. She loves to use Facebook, so I'm able to keep up with her crazy adventures on there. We also use Skype and FaceTime to have virtual face-to-face conversations as often as we can. Although it isn't the same as actually seeing her, through the use of social media, we are able to stay up to date on each other's lives and keep our bond, which I had feared we would lose. I can't imagine not having the constant option to virtually connect and catch up with whoever I want. While it is clear that social media can enhance our social experience due to its convenience, when we begin to overuse it, several negative effects can occur. We, as humans, are very susceptible to addiction due to the good feelings coming from the neurotransmitter dopamine. While some people get addicted to drugs, gambling, or even food because of the reward and pleasure, we, Generation Z, have a problem with screen addiction, or the addiction of being on our phones and social media at all times. The addiction of technology, phones, and social media is so strong that withdrawal signs are even shown when people go without social media. A study was conducted at the University of Maryland by Susan Moeller, the director of the International Center for Media and the Public Agenda. For this study, 200 students were asked to give up all social media for 24 hours. The results showed that many had withdrawal symptoms, cravings, and anxiety. These signs and symptoms are not only seen in official research studies. When I participated in a similar small-scale study in high school, I felt similar effects. In 10th grade for a psychology experiment, I gave up the use of my phone for one whole day. While I didn't feel completely alone, I did feel very cut off from the outside world. As I constantly found myself reaching for my phone, only to find nothing, I began to feel like a part of me was missing. This experiment made it very clear to me that on some level I was definitely addicted. Is it possible to be in two places at once? It's hard to be fully present while constantly refocusing your attention between what is actually going on around you and what you are viewing on your phone, laptop, or other device. The explosion of social media has contributed to massive expansion of multitasking behaviors and, as a result, to continuous partial attention. But how much attention can an individual give to more than one task at the same time? Researchers use the term absent presence to refer to situations where people may be physically in one place while their social attention and communication focus is elsewhere. When reflecting on day-to-day life, I am typically unaware of the impact of my split attention. However, when taking a step back and looking more closely, the effects become quite clear. There are many instances when I don't remember learning a certain math section, or could have sworn I was never told a certain story by a close friend. Not so coincidentally, I had also been on social media during these times. In reality, I was physically present, but my mind was elsewhere. Alfred Adler, the founder of the School of Individual Psychology, states that social interest is innate to humans, as it is a necessary foundation for the development of an individual while also advancing the evolution of humans. The way that we have these social interactions and form our connections has changed through the use of social media. By engaging in various social media websites and apps, it may seem as if we are in contact with more people than we really are. Are we really friends with all of our Facebook friends? Is Snapchatting someone the same thing as talking to them? What about sliding into someone's DMs? Could you say that to them in person? The lack of a real connection through social media can be seen when you see one of your friends from social media in person. For example, on my phone or laptop, I might like their tweets, comment on their photos, or message them without second thought, while in person it is quite common for me to not even be comfortable enough to say hi. Many of us in Generation Z view our daily social media interactions as meaningful and become hypnotized by their false effects. Mindlessly scrolling through social media seems to be Generation Z's equivalent of twiddling thumbs. It is something we instinctively start to do when we find ourselves with nothing else to do. With this in mind, social media may be influencing our social interactions more than we'd like to admit. As a member of a group that is heavily influenced by social media, I am very aware of its potential effects on my life. The effect of the explosion of social media in our generation is neither good nor bad. It is simply reality. There are many positive effects of social media. It gives us the ability to connect with people all over the world and is a platform to share and connect with others who have similar interests and passions. However, in day-to-day life, due to the overuse of social media, negative effects seem to outweigh the good. There's a fine line that needs to be drawn in order to keep the positive effects of social media while avoiding the negative. Considering the fact that our entire generation hasn't grown up yet, the extent of the effects of growing up in a world so reliant on social media are currently unknown. Will real-life connections be replaced by communication through social media? Will this generation grow up to be less social than the previous? What implications will social media have on this generation?